they occupy this kind of liminal realm. And it is an indictment of our society, but it's also at the same time a kind of eternal place of marginality, right? That has always been there, probably tribally. It's just not as dire as in a kind of post-industrial space. But I feel a connection to them that goes beyond my having had an addiction or being a recovering addict. I feel just a kinship with them because it's so extreme, and I feel fundamentally like an extreme person. I can easily imagine myself.
Yeah, same. Same. Just having just that unlucky condition, and
just at a kind of crossroads,
the wrong turn.
Absolutely.
Yes, the wrong turn.
I mean, think about this idea of liminality, and like, for example, peyote, right? The cultures that do that. There is this idea of the crossroads, right? This other realm that they enter, but they come out of it. They ultimately do come out of it, and they're changed. It's a rite of passage, but at least they understand there's this other realm, but they still have to come out of it, and they're changed. So I think,
and we don't have that kind of acknowledgement of the sacred culture-wide. We have it in a very fractured way.
Right.
Has to do with different denominations of church. And whenever I would hear Bloomberg talk about houses of worship, I would just think, God, this is so dead. Houses of worship will be able to congregate. And I think, like, this is the way this sounds is such a kind of testament to how bankrupt most of it is, right? It just sounds so worthless.
Did you say Bloomberg or de Blasio?
No, Bloomberg.
Bloomberg.
This is, and I would think that had a weird way of making sense of the addicts on 7th Avenue to me, It is no.
Right.
Well, Thad, we really enjoyed having you on the show. This was so much fun.
I wish we could have gone out on a lighter note.
I mean, we can. I mean,
I guess you can edit this.
Well, what are you writing? What are you writing right now?
What am I writing? I'm writing a thriller about a surfer because that's my brand.
Yes.
And we're in entrepreneurial capitalism. I don't have a choice. So I'm sticking with the surf brand.
So you're doing a thriller on surfing.
Yeah, surfer and witness protection.
Oh, can I direct the film?
Serious?
Yeah. I'm just pimping myself for directing everyone's
You don't have to stay in witness protection. You can leave anytime you want. That's right. That's true. It's very free. It's not like you signed a contract. You can go anytime.
Right.
We want you to be safe because we want to encourage people to testify.
Wow.
But if you choose to go back in the world and you get shot, that's on you. But we don't want to see we don't want other witnesses to know that you're going to get shot. So keep it quiet.
Oh my gosh, this sounds like an awesome premise.
Well, I got a lot of ideas from this book. Because think about it.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
The Ricky Rasmussen.
Yes. Well,
because there's this legend that he's in witness protection.
I know. There's.
Did you know that? No. Yeah. Because he went into a coma. Okay, we have to acknowledge Ricky Rasmussen.
Yeah. We got to talk about it.
It's his 39th anniversary of his death. He died in August. We're in August.
Yeah.
On the 26th of August, after 16 days in a coma because he got shot in the face, basically right under his eye, doing a drug deal up in basically not like in I want to say Washington Heights.
Washington Heights,
152nd Street.
Yeah.
West. All right. And he was shot, but he didn't die right away, and he was in this coma for 16. And then there's this kind of urban legend that instead of actually dying, he was whisked away to witness protection, where he helped because he was already turned state's evidence for the FBI.
He had ratted out already.
He was doing it already.
He was already doing it.
There was a certain logic, and it may be true for all I know.
There is a Facebook group that his sister runs.
Yes,
for him.
But it's not about this.
No, it's not about it.
Right.
But
I tried to reach her through someone. And
she won't really
Tony
discuss it.
Yeah,
she won't discuss it. But
I sympathize. I don't.
But I don't think. I think he's deceased.
Well, the guy who really covered the story right after it happened is a really good journalist, Michael Daly, who wrote a big, really detailed piece that I relied on heavily for my thing for New York Magazine called "The Surfer and the Cadet." He said, "I said, so there's this thing," and he goes, "Do you think he's really dead?" And he goes, "Yeah." I do.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, for me, having that guy say it, I was like, okay, yeah. He says, "No, I'm afraid I believe he's dead." Yeah. So
Yeah.
So that was and it was August and the city was very different then. It was like the 70s. In 82, it was like the 70s still, and it was rough and ready. And he tried to move a lot of cocaine
with a random person.
With a random person, and he ended up getting shot. And I was like, the story as such was so much more specific and interesting than what I imagined. What I imagined when I heard that story was Ricky Rasmussen got to be a junkie. He was he did something, made the wrong move, trying to score at, in the middle of the night in Harlem.
No,
way more
interesting.
Nothing like that. In fact, way more international, way more. It's more baroque.
It's like he got like a second chance too.
Yes,
that's
and he was on the verge of being given probation.
Yeah.
So it was one of those deaths that occurred on the threshold, back to liminality, of a life change.
Yeah. He was about to turn a corner.
Everything to live for kind of thing. Remember that phrase everyone says of someone who commits suicide or whatever?
He had this opportunity, and he just kind of had to do this one last deal.
Yes, it's right.
God, every story. But it is one last deal because the outcome is always going to be that. So there's always one last deal before that happens.
Yes.
But it's like a movie in the sense of like I was about to retire. I'm on the bomb squad. It's my last day.
Always.
When is someone going to write that book?
Well, see, that's what I was going to
that movie.
Well, that's what someone said about my encapsulation of the story. He goes, this guy deserves a podcast. Ricky Rasmussen deserves a podcast.
Yes.
Oh.
We should do that, Thad.
You could do you could break it down over and over, but you
want to do that?
We
could
do
the
fictive version.
I mean, we could do that.
I've moved on to the novelization.
It's so interesting. All the connections of like drug trafficking and surfing. And think about like.
Oh yeah,
they did the whole thing on.
Yeah, did you ever read Snowing in Bali?
No, it's
oh my God, it's fascinating.
Okay, I read. There's one called Tie Stick Scammers.
That's Peter McGuire.
Peter McGuire.
He used to live here and surf here.
Yeah, I met him here actually.
Really nice guy.
Super nice guy.
Yeah.
And he had all his sunset boards in his apartment in New York. I'm like,
wow.
what?
Yeah.
He's like, here's my 8.6. This is what I ride to West Peak. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I had quit surfing and I was just like a graduate student. He was a graduate student too. At Columbia. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, wait, you can do this at the same time as go to graduate school? And these are your boards?
Kelly Slater apparently optioned that book.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
He optioned it, but it never got
out of development.
But Snowing in Bali sounds pretty fascinating.
I actually would love to option that. And I know someone, I don't know if I can mention, but he's an Australian big action star here who was
Chris
looking
Hemsworth,
what I think was looking to option that, but I don't know what happened to that.
There's also that podcast on Murph the Surf that they did. I
have a connection to him through Dick Catree.
I have a connection through him through my dad. My dad would hang out with him when he would come up to New York because my dad had a surf shop here and was a Hobie dealer. And Murph showed him how he broke in and stole the Star of India.
Crazy.
There's
a podcast.
Yeah, there's
there's
a whole podcast.
Well, surfer crime, surfer criminals, or surfer. That whole surfing and crime.
I know.
Surfing and drug running, surfing and...
Alan Weisbecker,
scamming.
Search of Captain Zero, Dora. There's
also
a
Mike
thing
Hinson. I had a whole Mike Hinson thing I didn't include. But Mike Hinson...
The Brotherhood.
Yeah, the Brotherhood of Eternal Love.
Yeah.
You know where he had his first smuggling experience?
Where?
He was going through customs in India, and they were really in the 60s. He had gone on the endless summer trip. Bud Brown.
Yeah, Bruce Brown.
Bruce Brown.
Yeah.
Bruce Brown said to him, look, they're going to take my film away of you riding Jeffreys Bay if we go through customs because they think everyone's filming religious rituals and they'll either ruin the film or we'll never see it again. I want you. And he said, I'll smuggle it. So taped it to his chest.
Wow.
And he sweated bullets the whole time. And he tore it off when they got a certain place and they brought it in. And when he wanted to work from the Brothers of Eternal Love, they said, why should we give you smuggling work? You're just a surfer, man. You don't have the temperament for it. He goes, let me tell you a story. And he told them about bringing the film in from India, and they go, okay, we'll give you a shot.
Amazing.
And so he did a hash run, and it's all in his.
So there was
memoir.
actually film in there, and then based on that, that's when he got the job.
He did a legitimate. he brought in the core of that. Endless Summer is utterly reliant on the perfect wave.
Yeah.
He had the film for the perfect
If
wave
they
on
didn't-
his body. Had he not done that, it might not have made it, right?
Wow.
And he used that
Wow.
as his
As his
cred.
resume.
the offshoots from that, you know, the splintering off,
Oh my
you know,
God.
of like Bruce Brown getting him to smuggle, him then getting involved with the Brotherhood.
Yes.
And, you know, and then Bruce Brown's whole experience, you know, with the Endless Summer and that sort of thing. And then the growth of surfing, all of that tied into that one little pivot
Strand,
point.
yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
That little
Totally.
fracture point.
There are so many stories like that in surfing. Surfing is super, super rich.
To me, surfing is like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I feel like there's so much out there that's interconnected and interwoven, and there's characters who show up in all these different places. And to me, I look at surfing as like a Marvel Cinematic Universe or a Star Wars universe. Like that's how there's folklore, there's legend, there's mythology, there's all of it you can find in surfing, you know. And that's also part of the appeal of surfing, I think, is that hero's journey and all those things you can find in surf history and apply to yourself. When I was traveling around the world surfing, you know, and just with my board and backpack, like I was having my own hero's journey. I was having my own alchemist story, basically, you know, and that's also, I think, an appeal of surfing that can draw people in.
Absolutely.
And the
Yeah.
feeling of heroism when you're out in the water and
Yeah.
the ocean is wild. Like I literally, the Hawaii 5-0 theme song pops in, and I'm like paddling, getting past the point.
I would have these trips where I would travel somewhere and, you know, it would build up to this one day where it's 20 foot and huge, and I go out and surf, and it's like this whole story arc in my head that I can tell to myself, and it's rewarding. And you're also able to relive those moments when you tell it, you know, because it's, you know, it brings up all those feelings again, and that's what's so beautiful about it, and I think that's what's so fun in telling these stories, and you know, being a writer, it's like must be really fun to be able to kind of bring those to life.
Well, I am. There's a lot of ways in which I am just saddened by the mainstreaming of surfing. You know,
Yeah.
like I find like every Olympic medal that surfing accepts, it's a little less cool. It's a little less interesting, a little less countercultural. I find it lamer and lamer by the day. But the more people are interested in it who don't surf, the more there is actually a kind of primed readership and audience for surfing lore, which I
Yeah.
love.
Well,
So
they-
I'm kind of getting, that's my consolation.
Well, I think the more you grow it, you know, there's going to be more of the subsets and the subcultures of surfing which you can indulge in, and in there, but there's more opportunity to tell these awesome stories. Like we did that show last week with Emotion, and we're talking about Kim McKenzie, who is just one of the coolest surfers ever to have lived, and her story has not really been properly told. It's only been, you know, now told in Emotion, but there's so many stories
so many
there that can be unearthed now.
There's so many stories. I think we will have, like, you know, there's the mainstream. I mean, even in the way there was that split after mainstream surf became such a corporatized thing, right? Then you have your free surfers, and you know, it's just going to keep splintering off, and then
Yes,
you're going to
for
have
sure.
the real cool surfers versus the uncool surfers. Like, I think you're just going to see, you know, the prevailing of what we
It'll
do
be
as
like
humans.
rock music or pop music.
But
with lots of
exactly.
Exactly.
subgenres.
But it'll
Yeah.
allow us to tell those stories and
Exactly.
provide opportunities for us.
Yeah, I mean, something like Point Break is just scratching the surface, but that's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
where you're headed. with it,
Exactly.
It sounds like your idea is Point Break Part 2.
It is in a way, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Female director, hi.
Okay, well, listen, you
Catherine
know,
Bigelow's moved on to other stories. I'm available.
what I was going to say is, having written nonfiction, I felt very tethered, and I have a fictive side, and so this is like I feel like, kind of, you just like make
So
shit up.
cool.
It's free,
So
isn't
cool.
it?
Right? Yeah, it's so fun.
But also to have all those references, of
Yes.
of all the
Well, you can
and
pull
also
from
feeling
so
like it's
much.
grounded in
Right.
I know for
Right,
sure
right.
what a sponsored surfer's life is like from having interviewed Anthony Rufo.
Yeah.
I know what it is like to lose your sponsorship at 37 and what you might